Welcome to the Wayne Bennett Podcast, celebrating West Virginia's people, places, and the culture of Southern Appalachia. Now here's your host, Wayne Bennett.
Welcome to Wayne Bennett's Podcast. My name is Wayne Bennett, and this is November the 6th, 2023. This is episode 118. Our guest today is a businessman, an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, and an award-winning golfer. Ardie Jenkins, welcome.
Glad to be here.
Now, first of all, Ardie's not your real name, is it?
No. Ardie's my alias.
How did you get that name?
Well, it's actually my middle name.
Ardie?
My name is Ralph Ardie Jenkins.
Okay.
It's Ardie.
And who gave you the name Ardie?
I guess my mom about 60 years ago.
Well, now your dad was a contractor, and your mom worked in the medical field. Was she a nurse? Or?
She was a nurse, yes.
Uh-huh. And your dad actually ran the backhoe, and he dug the footers for my house and put in the septic system, and probably the best backhoe operator I ever seen. I've seen him.
He was very good at it. And he probably was put in water lines and septic systems in about half the places in Stanford.
Yeah, I mean, he was good. You played a lot of sports as a kid. I guess, what was your first sport that you ever played?
Probably baseball.
You remember your first coach?
Was my dad.
Oh, your dad was?
Yeah, he was my first coach.
Was that Stanford?
That was at Stanford Little League. I played 1 year. They closed Stanford Little League. So then we ended up at Beckley Little League, and Mr. Hill, Coach Hill, coached the Chicks. I
remember when you got up to Babe Ruth. Back then, people don't remember, but they used to have American League and National League. They had so many teams in Babe Ruth. I guess when you were around 14 or 15, you played for the American League All-Stars. And then there was a National League All-Star, or maybe you played for the National League. I can't remember now.
I don't recall
either. But they used to split them up. And you played for the National League. You played with John Chandler and Jack Bowman and that bunch. Gary Poling. There was a guy named Matt Parker, great pitcher, good ball player. Ron Famer. And on the other team, I guess there were Mason Basham and Randy Marnhout and Parkalow and Dave Parkalow, that much. And they had the sectional tournament here in Beckley. And I think St. Albans and both Beckley teams and somebody else was involved. But nowadays they don't have enough teams they only have one team from the Beckley Babe Ruth, and they go right to the States right now because of Babe Ruth's passed. But you remember the controversy you was involved with when they played St. Albans?
I was involved with?
Yeah. You were at bat, and it was extra innings. They went 12 innings, and a guy threw a pitch, and the umpire said that you got hit with a baseball. And they talked about
hit by a pitch.
And it hit your bat. Do you remember that?
I have no recall.
I saw this game. The ball hit your bat. Actually, you started off to first base, and they said, wait a minute. It didn't hit you. It hit the bat, so it's a foul ball. And they called you back, and ended up you walked anyway. And you guys won that game, and y'all won the sections.
Yeah, we went to the state tournament.
You went to the state tournament, and of course y'all lost twice down there. But if you would have had some of those players from the other league in Beckley, you guys might have went a long ways. But it always kind of held everybody back. And but you was a second baseman on that team, but you don't remember that controversy.
I have no recall of that controversy.
Well, sometimes, and that wasn't your fault, but I remember it well because I stayed there watching see what was going on. But it went 12 innings, and you guys ended up winning the ball game. But then around that same time, you wrestled. They started junior high wrestling. and you wrestled on the first team from Stratton Junior High. You remember that?
Oh, I do remember that.
Who was the coach?
One of my all-time favorite coaches was Malvin Ross.
Yeah, and you guys won the first county championship.
Yeah, we sure did.
And do you remember some of the guys on the team?
We had Clarence Bowles on that team.
Spud Morton, wasn't he on that team? Aaron Morton or Spud Morton?
Yes. You had Reggie Robinson was on that team. My brother John was on that team. He was a 7th grader. So we had a pretty good team. Terry, I'm drawing a blank on
Terry Morse.
Terry Morse.
Yeah. Now they, and most of them guys went on to wrestle in high school also. And Melvin didn't know, Melvin was a college football player and football coach, and he didn't know a lot of wrestling, but he knew how to get you in shape.
Well, that was his philosophy was if they're going to beat you, they're not going to beat you because you were in worse condition than them. They're going to have to beat you for 5 minutes at that point.
Everybody thought that Sophia was going to win because Jack Parker was coaching down there, and Jack had wrestled in high school and a little bit in college and had a little wrestling background, and everybody kind of thought that they were going to win the counties that year, but you guys kind of upset.
It's like Shady had already had a junior high team going
Shady
as well.
Was
they
the
were
first, yeah.
2 or 3 years in. So we had to overcome those guys too. But
now when you
Park had a heck of a team too.
When you got in high school, you got to run cross country with Jeff Adkins, didn't you?
Yes.
He was a senior and you were a sophomore.
Yeah. Yes.
Who taught you into running?
Well, I played football at Stratton. Loved playing football. And that summer, between my 9th and 10th grade year, we went on this family vacation. It was like drove all across the country. We ended up in Arizona, Texas, about a 3-week adventure. Came back, and it was about a week into August. I come out to Coach Colacerto, and I'm like, Coach, I want to play football. He's like, well, son, you're going to have to wait till next year. You've already missed 10 practices. You're only allowed to miss 2. And so I wanted to do something. Wrestling was I was pretty passionate about wrestling. So I wanted to do something to stay in shape for wrestling. So I started running cross country. And turned out I was pretty good at it. So I stuck with it.
Well, Jeff Adkins actually played football and ran cross country, and he probably didn't show up to too many cross country practices because he ran in the mornings on his own, I think. And
he was never at practice.
Yeah.
He was always at football practice.
Yeah, he played football on Friday night and would run cross country on Saturdays, and then he'd run to school in the mornings a lot. I've seen him when I pass him in the car, and it worked for him.
So funny story. So Jeff, he didn't run the first half dozen races that we ran, and Coach Mosley comes out and says, "Hey, we have a guy that runs on the football team." By that time, I was the number 1 runner on the team. Yeah, I was feeling pretty good about myself. So I didn't know Jeff. He comes out and he introduces himself to all of us. Great guy, and so he kind of knew that I was top runner, and so we're in Barbersville running a race there. And beginning of the race, there's a big hill, and so I'm out. I'm trying to keep up with Jeff, and he's trying to help me. He's talking to me, trying to pull me along, to try to stay up with the lead pack. And I'm starting to fall a little bit behind, and he just keeps working with me. He's a team player. And when we get to the top of the hill, I'm gassed, and we're about a mile into a 3-mile run. And we're 50 yards or so behind the lead pack, and he just disappears. He catches that pack and wins the race. He goes on and never loses a race in West Virginia in cross country or track, and ends up at Penn State running track and cross country there. But just a terrific guy, but kind of humbled me on.
Yeah, he was he went to Penn State. Then he ended up out Athletes West. He ran for kind of like a pro wrestler, or runner out there. And when he first came to Beckley, it was over Christmas holiday. They were moving from North Carolina to Beckley, and we're going to be at Woodrow the next year. And I was a wrestling coach, and we had just finished practice, and him and his dad, Lieutenant Colonel Don Atkins, they came in from North Carolina, and I showed them around the school. Well, I was a wrestling coach, and I said, he wrestled too in North Carolina, and I was hoping, man, we done got us somebody coming in. Well, ended up when he got to Woodrow, he decided he wasn't going to wrestle anymore, But he did come out the following summer and wrestled in one of my tournaments I had and got in the finals and almost won the daggone thing. But he was a tremendous. His dad was a tremendous athlete, and then he had brothers Mark and Mike.
They were terrific runners as well.
Yeah,
and Mark wrestled as well. I'm not sure about Mike. Mike was a little younger.
Yeah, Mike was younger. I'm not sure. He wrestled in high school, but I'm not sure if they were around for when he graduated or not. Did you run track or play baseball in the spring?
I did both.
You did both of them?
Yeah. There was two of us, me and Danny Colacerto. We played baseball and ran track.
Wow. So you were a four-sport letterman in high school. Growing up, who was your favorite professional baseball team? Who did you follow?
Well, I'm a lifelong Reds fan.
If you lived around here, most people had,
especially growing up in the 70s, you had to be a Reds fan.
Yeah, that's the only team you listen to on the radio,
right?
And of course, then a little later, the Atlanta came out, was on TV all the time, and a lot of people kind of switched over. But in wrestling, you guys had some pretty good teams, but you didn't crack that top four, or as far as teams were concerned, or five. But your junior year, wrestling in the 119-pound class, you ran into Greg Bradshaw, I think, from Parkersburg.
Yeah, he
was
hard to beat.
Greg Bradshaw didn't win it that year, but he won it the next year and was a pretty good takedown guy. And then in your senior year, you got into the finals and ran into Dave Rittenhouse. Now you were sick or something, weren't you?
So my senior year, I was in a car accident.
Oh, okay.
A week or so before the cross-country region. And I got banged up pretty good and was really not able to run or do any conditioning for a couple of months. Kind of put me a little bit behind there, but I had plenty of time to get in shape. Conditioning wasn't the issue in my senior year, but I did get a late start wrestling.
Now I know that when you got in the finals, you had about 15 matches, and most of the guys had around 25 or 30 back in that time. And when you got into the finals, you wrestled Dave Rittenhouse from Parkersburg South, and I watched. I was there. You guys went. It was 0-0 at the end of 3, wasn't it?
No, actually, I had a 1-point lead in the third period, and I was trying to ride out a lead, and he escaped with a few seconds, 20 seconds in the period to tie the match, and then he got a takedown, and got the takedown in overtime, and that pretty much sealed the deal.
Yeah. Now, when you graduated, well, during high school, you met your future wife, Leanne Cook?
That's right.
What grade were you in then?
I was a senior. She was a junior.
So you dated senior year, and you guys have been married how long now?
40 years.
You got to get this right.
Yeah, 40 years.
What kind of music did y'all listen to when you back into high school?
Oh, it was top 40 music, I guess.
Any favorite groups?
Well, the Eagles, stuff like that.
Now, you decided to go to college, I guess. You went to Marshall. Did you go to Marshall right out of high school?
I did. The reason I chose Marshall, I actually was invited to walk on to the cross-country team.
Okay.
So I ran cross-country and track at Marshall for 3 years. Enjoyed that. And then my senior year, Leanne and I got married. She graduated from nursing school, and
did she come down to Marshall?
She came to Huntington.
Yeah.
We lived for a year, and then we moved back to Beckley. Been here ever since.
Now you had, I know you ran a lot of some of these local races, and that time I was running some back then too. I was one of them good age group runners, but didn't win too many overalls, but unless somebody didn't show up. But I remember the Southern West Virginia Roadrunners had a race over at Woodrow Wilson one time. You won that race, and I think I finished. I think I won my age group. But the funny one was where the soccer fields are now. The Beckley Roadrunners, Raleigh County Roadrunners decided to have a race, and I think we left the Armory, and you run out by the soccer fields. There wasn't no soccer fields there at that time, and there was no interstate or 4-lane. And you run out that road, and Marianne Coal Company had mines down there at the bottom, and Martin Hajash was the one putting this run on. And you ran down the hill, crossed the railroad tracks, then turned around and came back. And that was a climb, buddy.
It's over a mile.
Wow. And Martin's biggest thing was he couldn't get the railroad to guarantee him that a train wasn't going to come during the race. They wouldn't tell him nothing. And he was scared to death. You get half the guys across the track and the other half coming down. But nothing happened. Well, that was a tough race. You won that. But they never had that race again because most people said they wouldn't come back.
That hill was just too much. But I guess I'd already went through a season at Marshall and in cross country, and it's a different type of training. You worked on hill climbs and you worked on speed. You just worked on endurance and strength running.
When did you quit running?
So my junior year at Marshall, in the spring of my junior year, I wasn't a big fan of running track anyway, but I developed some tendonitis bursitis in one of my knees, and just took a long time to clear up. So I still ran a little bit after that, but then it just kept flaring up. I just kind of got away from it then.
When did you pick up golf?
So I started playing golf when I was between my junior and senior year in high school. I worked for a guy that built chimneys. He just needed a labor, which I was that guy, and he would build chimneys. Well, his nickname was Streak, But so Streak would, we'd go to work early morning, 6, 7 o'clock, work about 6 or 7 hours. And then he would look at me and says, "Hey, it's a pretty day out here. Let's go play a little bit of golf." So he introduced me to the game of golf at Lakeview Golf Course in Coal Ridge. And I didn't own clubs. He had an extra set of clubs. So we would leave work and go play golf for a little bit. And that's what got me started in it. And then in college, during my freshman year, I don't know if you remember Lonnie Cook. His son Matt was a terrific golfer, played golf for Marshall from Beckley. And I knew him. And he said, "Hey, I can get you a job out at Glade playing as a bag boy. Would you like, what do you think?" I said, "Man, I think that sounds great." Go out there, and they let us play at no charge. So I started playing golf then. I wasn't very good. And the pro at the time was Robert Harris, who ended up at Greenbrier, director of golf at the Greenbrier. And I can remember Robert was trying to show me a few things, and I'm just rolling the ball everywhere or blocking it here and there. He says, "Look, the first thing you got to do in golf is get lined up, because if you're going to miss it, at least miss it straight at your target." That's how bad it was. But anyway, that's what got me started in golf.
There you are today. I want to go back just 1 second and mention, you mentioned back in baseball, you mentioned Ronnie Fama, who pitched for Beckley. I wanted to share one story. One summer, I ran a baseball camp for the YMCA, and I would call these guys and try to get instructors to come in one day, and then I'd have a different guy the next day and everything. And Dale Ramsburg was the coach at WVU, and I called him and I said, won't you come down to Beckley and work a day for us? I'll have about 30 kids out here, and they didn't have they didn't have any baseball camps and stuff like they do now, and didn't have no travel teams or anything. And he said, I'll come down there, but you got to make sure Ronnie Fama is in the camp. And I didn't even know who Ronnie Fama was that well. I mean, and I said, well, let me see what I can do. So I called Ronnie, and he didn't really want to be in the camp, but he said, I'll come out there the day that Ramsburg comes down, because Dale was interested in recruiting him.
Sure.
And so Ronnie came out, and Dale had him pitching some, and he was watching him, and I think he offered him, but he ended up going to Marietta College, and I think he had some arm trouble or something after he got up there for a while.
Well, the story I get, first of all, Ronnie Fama was a terrific baseball player, and he ended up at Marietta College. But there was another guy there at Marietta. His name was Terry Mulholland. A lot of people don't know that name or remember that name, but he was the number 2 pitcher on Marietta's team, and Ronnie was the number 1 guy. And not sure what happened with Ron. I think he hurt his arm in some way later in his college career. But Terry and Mulholland enjoyed about a 10 or 15 year career in the major leagues. And I kind of want to believe that Ronnie had that opportunity as well had he not been hurt.
Yeah.
Terrific baseball player.
The same camp had a guy I called Charleston Charlies, and they were part of the Astros connection at that time. And I said, they sent me an infielder. I can't remember the guy's name, and they sent me a pitcher, and the pitcher's name was Dave Smith. And 2 of the nicest guys in the world. They came up here, they worked with the kids. Then they gave us all tickets, and I took 2 van loads of kids down to watch the Charlies play that week on Friday. Kids loved it, Well, Dave Smith, that same year, got called up by the Astros and pitched in the World Series. Watched him on television and stuff. I said, man, I should have got some things signed, And he had a good career in the pros for the Astros. And but you just never know who you're going to run into. But let's go back to the golf. Well, you got a degree from Marshall. What was the degree you got?
It's a business management degree.
And what was the first job you got when you come out of Marshall?
I worked for WCHS, selling television advertisements.
And how long did you do that?
3 or 4 years.
Now you become a wrestling official somewhere along the line.
Actually, Mike Tyree recruited me to officiate as soon as I got back. It was, I guess, the 84-85 season.
Uh-huh.
I had graduated Marshall in 84, and then we're back in town. And
how long did you officiate? I know you got up
2003. From 84-85 until 2003.
Really? I didn't realize you went that long. Well, yeah, I knew you was Class 1 and you called a bunch of big tournaments and stuff like that. And how come you quit?
Well, my son was not interested in wrestling, and he played a lot of soccer. And so soccer's a year-round commitment, basically. And so he goes from fall soccer outside to indoor soccer on travel teams. And so I became a soccer dad.
Well, you were the guy that got me involved in fantasy football and baseball. Yeah. And that back in those days, they didn't have all the computer stuff. I mean, you had to get these magazines and read them and pay attention in the newspaper, and they would mail you the results in the mail, and it was almost like a full-time job. And I still am involved in fantasy football. I actually have my own league now.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, we do on a computer.
Well, the league that you left is still kicking.
Well, I had, but the baseball is it's hard to keep up with. You know, I kind of give up a little interest on that. But one thing I remember, Beckley newspaper used to have the gridiron guess, and you would predict what teams would they pick out so many games of football in college, and you would pick out who you thought was going to win that week. And then they would have a tiebreaker. And it literally, thousands of people would play that thing. You had to turn it in by a certain time. And there's Ardie Jenkins was always up there.
I enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun.
I mean, I think one week they had like 1,050 people, and the tiebreakers and stuff. I mean, it was close, and you'd win $50 if you won.
Right.
I know you won once. I mean,
I won 3 or 4 times, I think.
Did you?
Yeah.
And wonder why they quit doing that.
I don't know. You have to ask Rusty Udy. He'd probably be a good one to ask.
But if you won that particular week, then you had to play against the staff or something,
right.
See who of course, they don't have a staff anymore, it's kind of, don't have as many writers, but it was, but I'd always see Ardie, and I see your brother Billy every once in a while. I see his name in there. So you came back to Beckley, you went to work for BJW somewhere along the line, didn't you?
So, yeah, pretty much after the WCHS, I actually worked for my brother-in-law at Gates Supply for a little bit. And then Pete Tirico offered me a job at BJW. And I worked there for 11 or 12 years.
Then that's when you decided to do it yourself, try it?
Well, I wanted to, start my own business, and got into the delivery business. A couple of friends suggested it to me, and got started that way, and that happened in 2002.
How long were you in that business? Or are you still in it?
I'm still in it.
You're still in it. Mm-hmm. What other businesses have you been involved with? I know you was into reclamation or something.
I had a hydro seeding reclamation. We really just had the hydro seeding trucks. We didn't do any reclamation work. We just sprayed the seed on that.
For mines and stuff?
For the mining industry, yes.
Yeah.
Surface mining. And we had other accounts too. We would do some roads, and then we would do, we had an account with cell towers, whenever they build a cell tower. But my partner in that was, I had a couple of partners in it. Kelly Shoemate was the main one. But Kelly's he's over at the Greenbrier now.
Yeah, he's a pretty good golfer too.
Yeah, Kelly was a terrific golfer.
Well, let's go back to golfing a minute. In 1997, you were playing in the B&I, and you hit a hole-in-one at the Briar Patch, and I think it was on number 17, and that won Suzuki sidekick. Of course, they had stories about that. Dave Morrison's done a couple stories about that, but that's the only car you've won that.
Oh yes. I've actually have made 2 hole-in-ones now, but one about 3 or 4 years ago, and then that was the first one. But
you'll never forget that.
That was good timing on that one.
But that's not the first time that you've actually won anything in competition. I think out at one of the Woodrow Wilson basketball games, you shot a half-court shot. You remember that?
I do remember that.
How much you win on that one?
It was a $500 savings bond from Bank of Raleigh.
How did you get chosen for that?
I think you buy a program, and there's a sticker on a certain page in the program, and I just happened to be the lucky guy with the sticker, and I got to take the shot.
And $500.
$500 later. If you really want to know someone that tells the story real well is Charlie.
Charlie Hout?
Charlie Hout.
Yeah. Okay, I'll have to ask.
You have to ask Charlie about that. He brings it up every time I see him.
During this period of time, of course, you've played in a lot of tournaments and stuff, but during this period of time, you've had a couple kids. Who are your children?
I have a son. His name's Corey, and my daughter is named Taylor. They're both married now with grandkids. I have grandkids. They have children.
You got the good part. Now, the Jenkins Delivery is one business that keeps you pretty busy at this time. What do you do with Jenkins Delivery? I mean, what do you do?
We mainly service the mining industry. So the shops, rebuild shops or parts shops in the area, we will deliver their stuff to them, like same day stuff. That's what really got me started in the business. And then we also will pick up coal samples and for the testing labs that are in the area. You have SGS, Nirvana, and Precision Testing there.
Say somebody called you from Orchard Avenue or somewhere and wanted you to pick up a refrigerator and deliver it to Temple Street. Would you do something? Do you do stuff like that?
No, I would refer them to the Lowe's delivery department.
Okay, I didn't know what. But you've been in that delivery business for how long?
For really 22 years.
Wow. And with the mining business kind of up and down, how is it? Has your business stayed pretty much intact? Or?
I mean, if you stay in this business long enough, you see the ebbs and the peaks and valleys. I've seen some valleys and I've seen some peaks. So you just try to make it.
Yeah. Now, I know as a small businessman, you get hit up a lot by sports teams and people like that. You know, I know you've been involved in different golf fundraisers and numerous charities, Marshall University, the Alumni Association, the graduation golf fundraiser. You were probably one of the first people when the West Virginia Miners first started playing. You were probably one of the first people that bought season tickets to the ball game to support that program. And it's kind of hard to say no when people are always asking, but I think people appreciate. You're the kind of guy, you came up through everything, and so you appreciate what people were trying to do. I know, but what's on your bucket list? Where would you like to see yourself 10 years from now?
10 years from now, I hope that on Monday I'm playing around the golf. On Tuesday, I'm taking the boat out fishing. And on Wednesday, I may go back to the golf course, and if the fish are biting, I may stay on the lake fishing. That's kind of where I'm hoping that I'm going to be. But no, my wife and I, we enjoy traveling. And I hope this mission is completed by then. But we're on a mission. We have a mission. And that's to visit every Major League Baseball stadium. And we're about halfway. We've got 15 of the 30 in right now.
Wow.
So we're trying to accomplish that goal. So hopefully we get to do a lot more of that in the next few years.
Have you seen the ones out west yet, or?
The only one out west that we've been to is San Francisco. We still have to get to the West Coast.
Yeah. Well, that's great. It's funny. I've had a couple other people that I've interviewed that have kind of the same ambition. That's what they want to do. And I'd like to do that myself. I would, but I don't. It takes a lot of time, a lot of money, and
well, it takes a lot of time, and I don't. We're not going to be able to do it. I mean, we've been working on it for quite a few years already, and like I said, we're only halfway in. So I'd say another 6 or 7 years, we may be able to get it knocked out.
Well, good for you. Well, Ardie, I appreciate you coming by and talking to me, and you've done quite well for an old Stanford boy. And I'd like to wish you luck in your golf and your business endeavors. And you can come back anytime. We'll share a story.
Well, I appreciate your invitation and enjoyed sitting down talking to you.
Anybody else out there would like to be on our program, we'll get you on here. You just hit me up at awbennett50@gmail.com and we'll do it. And until then, remember, if you're not dead yet, you're not done yet. God bless you.